Where are the rest of the Onslaught maps that haven't released to Cold War Zombies yet? Because there's an absolute boatload of them, and recently various people have been doing a glitch in the game in order to access these maps, and I will be showing some gameplay of that in the background. Well, Treyarch's community manager actually responded to this on Discord, saying the same note about stability applies here, basically saying that the maps have not passed a number of tests in order to release them. Before Treyarch release every single map or piece of content, they have to run a certain amount of tests in order to ensure that it's not just going to completely break the game. And the thing is, the majority of these maps that people have been able to load into Onslaught and Onslaught containment do work for the most part. There are some bugs, with some maps having out of bounds areas, or areas where the zombies can attack you, or areas where you can stand and the zombies won't throw meat at you. For the most part though, most of them do work, and I'm sure they don't require that much work in order to fix all of the issues with them. But Treyarch right now are really busy working on Vanguard Zombies and their next Call of Duty game, as well as future Call of Duty projects that they haven't announced yet. And because of that, it doesn't seem like we're going to be getting these Onslaught maps unless Treyarch somehow finds some time. But to be honest, I'm sure they could get a couple developers at some point to just look into them and see if they can get them working. But is that value time worth it? I'm not exactly sure. But I really do think that these additional Onslaught maps would make for great Cold War Zombies Year 2 content, because I don't think any future content is really coming for Cold War Zombies, because Kevin Drew did say that the Cold War Zombies Super Easter egg was essentially the game's swan song and was a thank you for the last 2 years. It was the final statement. Nothing else major is really coming, and I do think these additional Onslaught maps could pass the time, especially for containment, because we don't have many maps in containment, and containment is a lot more fun than regular Onslaught. If we were able to play a lot more maps within containment, it would make them a lot more fun in my opinion. And to be honest, a lot of these old Onslaught and containment maps are starting to get boring now because people have played them so much, and it will be a nice change of pace to get some different maps and see how differently they play within the different environments. So yeah, unfortunately, unless Treyarch just put some time aside from the other stuff they're working on, these additional Onslaught maps are probably not going to be coming, which does suck because, like I said, the majority of them do work if you do this glitch, and there aren't really too many bugs. Of course, there will be bugs since they haven't been properly tested, but there's nothing major. But when the full community managed to play them, and there's millions of people playing these maps, or maybe not that many, but hundreds of thousands of people, or however many people are still playing Cold War, bugs will get found that the average user just wouldn't be able to find. And this is probably the exact same reason as to why Outbreak Crossroads has never released, because once again there was a glitch back in the day to play certain multiplayer maps within Outbreak, but none of them were actually working properly. The only map that was working was Crossroads. As you can see from the images in the background, the map had the objectives, it had the Wonder Fizz machine, and all of the other things you can expect within Outbreak maps. But Outbreak Crossroads unfortunately never released, although it is accessible within Onslaught. And the reason for this is most likely Treyarch just didn't pass all of the required tests in order to release it, and because they were busy working on Vanguard Zombies and future Call of Duty projects, they just ended up having to forget about it and just realized that it wasn't worth their time in trying to finish it up. So I don't think we're ever going to see Outbreak Crossroads, since they already said that Armada was the last map coming to Outbreak. I do think there is a possibility we might see some of the Onslaught content though, just because the majority of them are working. They just require some further tests, and maybe at some point, if a couple of the Treyarch developers have some free time, they might just sit down and get that out of the way. Whether it's worth it or not is up for debate though, because I don't know how many people are playing Onslaught. I do personally love it, and there's a dedicated community that do love it too, but the problem is, when Onslaught first released, the mode wasn't very good, and it's been updated a lot over the course of the year, and it's an amazing game mode now, but the problem is first impressions count, and because the mode wasn't very great on its release, I think a lot of people just forgot about it, and they never gave it the chance once the updates did swing around. First impressions are so important, and I think the same could be said about Outbreak too. I think for a lot of people who don't like Outbreak, they just played it on release, and they haven't played it after all of the updates and the changes and the more maps that have been added, and given it that full shot. Yes, it's not a perfect mode by any means, and it does need some more work, but it is phenomenally better than when it first released. But like I said, first impressions count, and I think a lot of people just wrote Outbreak and Onslaught off immediately upon their releases, and they never gave it that fair shot once they were updated.